Where 2023 ended, we had sold 235,000 in revenue. We had marketing and sales dialed, but we had to throttle that because that was the problem, is we were getting 4 or 5 months booked out while we figured out production. So we carried over about $135,000 in sales into 2024 from people that were already sold, contract signed, deposit taken. It is a phenomenal sales process. You see how a home service professional just jumps into this and dude, they're freaking screwed, right? And they're like, well, doesn't work. It's a different process. It requires a higher level skill set.
What is going on, guys? Today we're here with Eric Fos. Eric is the owner of Pathfinder Marketing, which is a digital marketing agency that works exclusively with painting businesses. They crush it. They get amazing results for their clients. So if you are a painter, you should definitely give him a call. But excited to dive into it with you, Eric.
Yeah, dude. I'm happy to be here. It should be fun.
For sure. So the first thing I want to dive into is you own a painting marketing agency. You've been doing it for how long now?
Just over 4 years.
Awesome. So you've been doing it for 4 years. Last time we spoke actually in person, this is the first time I met you, was a little over a year ago. At the time you had the marketing agency, you were crushing it. You had no painting business at all. And then after that point, you decided to start your painting business. And it seems like you guys have been crushing it so far. Can you tell me about the current revenue and kind of the numbers behind the business at this point?
Yeah. Where 2023 ended, we had sold like around 235, give or take a couple thousand, 235,000 in revenue, but produced closer to like 100, right? Sold and produced are very different. And that's where we got our butt kicked for a while, was not being able to produce it on just the production side. We had marketing and sales dialed, but we had to throttle that because that was the problem, is we were getting 4 or 5 months booked out while we figured out production. And that's why those numbers don't sound, crazy or anything either. But that's where 2023 finished.
Cool. Okay. So you basically had $235,000 worth of work sold in 2023, but because you were bottlenecked with your team, so you couldn't fulfill all of that work.
Yeah, we only actually fulfilled. So we carried over about $135,000 in sales into 2024 from people that were already sold, contract signed, deposit taken, but they hadn't actually, like, they're on the schedule, but we hadn't actually completed their project yet.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So if you had to start over today, like you mentioned earlier, the past year has kind of kicked your ass with all the learning lessons you've had. If you had to start over today, I guess for anyone that's new trying to start, whether it's a painting business or a pressure washing business, what would the first steps you would take today be?
Honestly, pretty similar. I'd start with the marketing and the sales side. And, while that was a painful problem to solve, of like, man, we're booked out 4 or 5 months and, sorry, we have to keep telling customers we're pushing back the project further. And like, that was a painful problem to solve. I think it's a better problem to solve than like, I don't have enough work, right? And I don't have stuff on the schedule. So I would have started in the same spot. The only thing I probably would have done differently is, in terms of recruiting production, I would have gone after experienced people and W-2. We started it. The idea when we started it was to be all subcontractor based, just be the marketing and salesperson, subcontract it out. And that's where we just got wrecked because we didn't have a lot of the industry experience. People are just taking advantage of us. And then we started hiring in-house W-2 based painters, and we hired a lot of green people, and we were going to teach them how to paint because it's not freaking rocket science. And that's fine, but it's not like I've been a tradesperson for 10 years. So where we really, really started seeing success was really dialing in the recruiting process and finding experienced W-2 painters that want something better, that are bought into the vision and our culture, and can come in and hit the ground running. And that took us 9 months to figure out. So had I known that now, I'd do that from the jump. But I think that still has to come after getting some jobs on the books, getting marketing and sales dialed in.
For sure. It's I like hearing that because a lot of people, when they get into business, marketing and sales is at the back of their mind, and up front they're just thinking about buy the equipment and then I'll magically start getting jobs. Jobs is not the case at all. So with your approach, I guess in the beginning, were you the one doing the jobs? Were you just subcontracting right off the rip? Like, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, the full intention starting the business, right? Because I've been running this marketing company, previously, and while I had several hours I could step away from the marketing company and go build the next thing, I didn't have 8-10 hours a day to go be painting houses. I'm also not a painter, like I painted some apartments with my brother, but like C-class rental apartments, nothing crazy, by no means professional painting experience whatsoever. Even still today, like my paint skill set, I'd be an apprentice in my own company, right? So no, the intention was just to subcontract out the work. I didn't want to have to worry about managing painters and all of that stuff and whatever. I just wanted to be able to say, hey, got some good subcontractor partnerships. Here's the job, pays 5 grand, go take care of it, and let me just focus on building the office team, the marketing, the sales, the project management. That was the intention when starting out.
Right. Because you also had the intention of basically creating a virtual business initially, right?
Yeah, yeah. At least partially. I knew project management would have to be in person. There'd need to be some level of quality control. Even if the subcontractor route had worked out more, there would need to be quality control, and that would have to be in person. But admin, appointment setting, marketing, recruiting, sales is all virtual, and that part's all gone smoothly. I mean, that is all virtual. So our only in-person team is our painters and our project manager, and me like 50% right now.
So I actually want to dive a little deeper into your sales process because you guys kind of do it a little differently than most businesses, and it's worked in your favor, just kind of taking the virtual approach with estimates and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
do you mind kind of breaking down like as deep as you want to dive into it, but like as soon as you received a lead to collecting the money, like what does
Yeah.
your process look like?
So it's funny, like it is a phenomenal sales process, but in terms of it being this like sexy virtual process, it's not as sexy as people will think it is, right? It's literally just an amazing sales process converted over to virtual. So lead comes in, we call right away within a couple minutes. We have a script and a framework we walk through to get them excited about the project, uncover pain points they may have about the project that maybe they didn't even realize they had when they were initially filling out that quote request or whatever. And then we schedule an appointment, literally just like we would if it was in person. The framework for that appointment setting script is the exact same from what I did back at the remodeling company I used to work at before I started the marketing agency. It's the same exact script. There's just two sentences in it at the end that are different, saying, "Hey, by the way, we actually use estimates virtually. Here's what that's like." Da 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 da. Like it's the same thing. We just let them know it's gonna be virtual. Then our sales guy reaches out and confirms the appointment, just like he would if he was going out to their house. But instead of confirming the address, he asks them to send in photos. That's it. And there's no fancy form they fill out and all this automation. He literally just is like, can you text me some photos? And they text him photos and he clicks on them within our CRM. Like, isn't that like, is it really simple, right? We tried doing it the other way. We had all these forms and all this stuff, and it was overcomplicated for no reason. So then from there, sales guy confirms the appointment, jumps on Zoom, just like you and I are right now, to do a virtual consultation. And then our sales process again is literally the exact same as if we were in person. We ask the same questions, all of that. Instead of walking around the house with them, we share our screen and walk through the photos with them rather than walking through room by room. We have like one or two extra questions to ask about certain damages and things maybe we couldn't see by not being there in person and just give us, an extra checkpoint. Other than that, it's literally all the exact same. Everything is the exact same. It's just a phenomenal sales process of asking really good questions, really undercovering their pains, what they're looking for from the project, what they're looking for in a painting company. All that stuff you can do in person. Again, just convert it virtual. And then we give them a couple options. We do an option close, guide them towards the best option. We send them a payment link. We'll literally just text it over to them again right there on the call. Just like if you handed them the iPad, we go, cool, I'm sending you over that link right now. Kathy, while you're taking care of the deposit, I'm going to go ahead and just add those couple things into the proposal. Then we can look over that together, make sure it's all good. And then we share our screen and sign the proposal with them. And it's it's literally just a normal sales process. Just it has pros and cons for sure, but that's kind of how it works.
Cool. So first thing, you're calling the lead as soon as they come in. Speed to lead is super important. Get them on the phone. You schedule an appointment with a salesperson. In between that initial call and the appointment, the salesperson will call just to get some photos and to connect with them really quick, probably confirm the appointment as well. And then on the actual appointment, that's the entire sale right there. You guys are going over the photos together, composing the quote together, doing the proposal, ideally closing the deal right then and there. I would assume not all deals will close on the
Of course.
spot. What does your follow-up process look like if they don't move forward on that call?
Obviously, it depends a little bit on the estimate. Ideally, if we can position a follow-up appointment, because maybe there was a decision maker we didn't get on there or whatever it is, fantastic. Some of them it doesn't make sense. So we have like several results after an appointment. One of those would be what we call deal advance, meaning we scheduled a follow-up appointment. and one that maybe didn't have a follow-up appointment, we would just call no close, right? We didn't close it, but there wasn't really a follow-up that made sense. Maybe the lead declined the follow-up. I don't know, right? So it's a little dependent, but we do try to, if it can make sense, book a follow-up, be their consultant, be the guide in the process, and continue that through, see it all the way through.
Cool. Okay. And you said with this process, there's some pros, like the obvious pros of being virtual, not having to go out in person, probably saving a lot of time, gas, things of that nature. What would you consider to be the cons of doing this virtually?
Show rate, in home services, it's a thing we're used to in agency world, right? What's your show rate on the sales side? But in
Hmm.
home services, like especially most people like, at a couple million or less, like they're probably like, what? Like they're probably not even tracking that because probably like 98% or more of their appointments, like they go to the house and they're there. Every now and then, maybe the homeowner's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you were coming. Again, maybe every once in a blue moon, they're not home because they forgot. But like, it's way easier then to be like, oh, I just got home 5 minutes ago. I'm freaking exhausted. My boss was a jerk today. Hey, sorry, I'm caught up at work. Don't come to the Zoom meeting. Right? They can just not click on the meeting link. When you're at their house, though, maybe they're exhausted. They had a rough day at work, but they're like, he's here. I'm not gonna fucking text him while he's 5 minutes away from my house and be like, sorry, I can't. It's just so show rate's a thing. That's certainly a con. The other con as well is like you just don't have some of that same in-person connection. We do it over Zoom, so we have that body language and that piece of it, but it is different. Like I mean, right? All the virtual friends we have from being in the marketing world. Then when we get together at a mastermind event, it's like a different energy, right? It's
Hmm.
powerful. It's the same thing, right? You don't quite have that same energy um, doing it virtually. Those are the two biggest ones.
Absolutely. And so with the show rates, what did you guys initially see when you tried this process? And then have you improved it since then? Like what have you done to try to improve it?
Yeah, we definitely had some ups and downs. I mean, at the beginning, it wasn't horrible. I'm guesstimating. I don't have our tracking sheets in front of us, but I want to say we were like 75% or so, 75, 80% at the beginning, which like is great for an agency, bad for a painting company. And we've had some dips up and down. I think mostly, honestly, just from like consistency from our sales team and like having the right procedures and having the right training and stuff. Now
Hmm.
that we've got some of that more dialed in, like it should, if everybody's doing their job correctly, our show rate should be above 90%. Like that's kind of our expectation if everybody's doing their job. And that's like totally achievable with home services, even virtual, So that's like our minimum, like 30% close rate. We want to be at 90% show rate. And I'd say we're fairly consistently there again when everybody's doing their job. Like maybe we drop to 85, 80 at the worst, but like 90 is very achievable.
Cool. And so can you give some like real examples of stuff you guys would actually do or say to help hedge with the show rate?
Yeah, so it's more of for me, it's more of like an ideology in a way of thinking than it is like a one-liner or a script or anything. Okay. And here's what I mean. It's what we try to do is we try to enter the conversation. Because think about it, we had an appointment setter set the appointment. So like you set the appointment for me, and then I'm coming in as the salesperson. So you don't know me, right? You knew Michael, the guy that set the appointment. You know they don't know who this Eric guy is. So our ideology is I, as the salesperson, I want to enter the conversation as the expert. And then I want to continue the conversation going from when I enter it to when that appointment starts. Now, what does that actually look like? If the appointment is 4 days, are you just gonna be texting this guy? He's gonna become your new best friend for 4 days? Like, no, of course not. Um, but what that looks like is I'm entering the conversation as an expert. Just for example, off the top of my head, I may call you real quick. Let's say you don't answer, then I text you, "Hey, Michael, we're on the calendar for Thursday at 3, right?" Question mark. Was already looking over some of the notes from Michael earlier. I got a couple thoughts. I got a couple thoughts already that I'll share with you Thursday. So I'm entering the conversation as an expert. I'm not a secretary confirming an appointment. I'm their consultant, right? I'm their consultant saying, "Hey, I already looked over some notes. I know you have this pain. Even better, you want to do some ninja shit, like you just want to do this really well. Um, like reference those pain points. Hey, I was looking over some of Michael's notes. I know he said durability is going to be really important since you have kids. I already got a couple thoughts for you that we can go over on Thursday." They're like, dang, this guy's on. He's already starting to solve my pain. He's not a secretary. There's going to be value from me showing up to this call. That's what we're trying to create. You're going to show up to this call and get your pains solved. And then what that looks like as far as continuing the conversation is really just spreading out communication. So if that appointment's booked on Monday, well, then on Friday, our actual appointment is, maybe there's several touch points throughout the week. He responds and goes, yeah, that's absolutely right. We've got two kids or whatever. Looking forward to talking to you Friday. Well, I may not respond actually until Tuesday afternoon and go, awesome. Just wanted to confirm. I know the life. I got two kids myself or something, whatever. Right. And then maybe there's no communication there Wednesday or something. And then Thursday morning, I may text him and say, hey, just making sure I'm all set for tomorrow. Do you have the Zoom link for our call or do you need me to send it over again? And he may respond and go, yep, I got it. Or he may say, no, I don't. Could you send it over again? Friday after or Thursday afternoon, I say, you got it. I'll send it over in the morning. And then Friday morning, I say, hey, just sent that to you. So it's like really every single day there was a text message or two exchanged because all I did was spread out that communication until the appointment within reason. Um, that's kind of how we go about it and how we've solved that. So we're always top of mind for them even until the appointment. And there's
Absolutely.
value.
Yeah. So the three main things I've seen from that, or I'm getting from this, and two of them kind of fall under the same thing, is one, letting them know you're going to receive value on this call. Everyone wants value. So not only are you telling them like, hey, if you show up, you're getting value from us, but you're also piquing their curiosity because you're not telling them what that value is
Yeah,
on that
I'm not
call.
telling them what the thing is exactly. Just like, hey, just know that I already know what your problem is and I've got some ideas on how to solve it.
Yeah. So that's super powerful. The third thing is exactly as you said, keep top of mind. You're just contacting them multiple times. Every day they're thinking about you. If you were to have 4 days in between the appointment, you talk with them that first day and the day of the appointment, they're probably going to forget about you all those days. And the time of the appointment comes and they're not there because they completely forgot about it. But what you're doing is constantly talking with them, being in the top of mind. So when it does come, they remember the appointment.
Exactly. Nailed it.
That's awesome. That's great. A lot of guys, not just in our space, but the home service space in general, are not thinking that deep. They're thinking, and they're not thinking of themselves as a consultant either, which they
Yeah.
should be because that's exactly what they are.
Yeah, our sales process is very consultative. It's very like, I'm going to put my arm around you and we're going to walk this road together, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, and I'm going to help you. Even if that means even if I'm telling you, hey, you shouldn't hire us, you should do this instead. Very consultative in all of our scriptings and frameworks and everything. But to your point, like, that's not something most home service business owners really do need to focus on. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it. You got a 99% show rate by just the automated email that comes out and you show up at their house. Most people don't need to solve that problem. That's a con of virtual that we had to solve. And I mean, thankfully, I've solved that problem on the marketing side before. So I already had a lot of that skill set and everything. But you see how a home service professional just jumps into this and dude, they're freaking screwed, right? And they're like, oh, this virtual sales doesn't work. Yeah, it's like it's a different process. It requires a higher level skill set for sure because of
Yeah.
some of those cons.
Yeah. And you're right. A lot of people in the home service space don't experience these type of bottlenecks, but as people are trying to transition to a more of a virtual workplace and virtual business model, this is going to be a huge issue that a lot of people have never experienced before and will be caught with their pants down because they have no idea what to do. So that feedback right there would probably be super significant in helping them increase their show rates.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so within the sales process, I know you guys are crushing it with sales, so I want to talk a bit more about your sales
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
What are some of the most common objections you guys get, and then how do you kind of handle them?
They're the same ones everybody gets. I need to talk to some other decision maker, right? Some sort of stall based objection of need to talk to decision maker or think about it, right? Those are both stall based objections. Probably a more common one on painting rather than like marketing services is pricing. That's more than I thought it was going to be, et cetera. Which kind of makes sense. Most people don't really know they don't run painting companies. They don't talk to painting company owners often. The average homeowner doesn't. They don't know how much it's going to cost. They don't. So, I'd say those are certainly the most common.
Okay, and I figured, could we kind of not necessarily role play, but see what your response to each of those objections would be?
Sure, yeah. And here's the thing. So like we do coaching calls for our clients on the marketing side, and a lot of it is sales stuff. Here's the only like warning I give. Our sales process is very discovery heavy, right? So like I follow Hermosi's closer framework and have molded our questions into fit that, right? We spend the majority of our time on C, L, and O, right? Clarify why they're here, label them with a problem, overview their past experiences. So much of how we handle those objections then in the talk tracks and scripting and framework is going to be based on things they said earlier in the conversation as far as what's important to them in their painting project? Is budget the most important thing, or is it having every detail perfect? Or is it timeliness because they're moving in 2 weeks? Like what's the most important thing? And a lot of those things earlier will dictate some of our talk tracks and everything. In short, we focus on chunking down, right? This is terminology I use to basically just like ask more questions in a lot of ways, right? And get down to the root of things. So if they're telling us pricing is the main objection, right? I want to figure out, is it like a logistical thing? Is it just a logistical thing of like, they're like, oh, I totally see how this is worth it now that we've done this whole consultation and I understand all that goes into it, but I was only budgeting for 10. I'm cool with 15. I just got a budget for it. It's just a logistical issue. Those are the easiest ones to solve, right? We can delay the project a little bit. We can take a lower down payment. Like there's other things we can solve logistical issues very easily. Those are my favorite ones to solve. They close almost all the time. If it's a value issue where they're like, I don't think I'd be willing to pay 15 grand. Not that it's not that I don't have the money. It's not that it's I don't have the money right now. It's that even if I had the money, I wouldn't be willing to spend 15 grand on this project. Those are different issues to solve, but both often come from a that's more than I wanted to pay objection, right? So I'm asking questions to chunk that down and figure out where that is, right? And similar processes for they need to think about it, or wife as well, right? I'm chunking that down. A lot of times wife or other decision makers will get progressed to a follow-up call. But again, we'll chunk that down a little bit. And there may be, if it's just a logistical thing of he's like 90, he knows his wife's on board. He's just not sure. This was a call we reviewed with my sales guy the other day. He's just not sure if his wife wants them to do the ceilings or not. But wife's 100% on board. Pricing's cool. Good with that. We're going to do the walls for sure in this entire house. Just not sure if he wants to do the ceilings. Cool. Few more questions to chunk that down to get him to tell us like it's just a logistical issue. His wife's on board. He just doesn't know if his wife wants to do the ceilings or not. Great. We're going to close that because the walls was still 6 grand. It meets our minimum project requirement easily. And then we're going to set up another call. And then we can decide the ceilings in the next 2 weeks. We're not going to do this project for at least a month or two. We can decide the ceilings later. It's just a logistical issue. If it's, hey, he is concerned his wife's going to be upset he spent this much money, that's a different objection, right? So it's that process, but because of that, our sales process isn't just like one-liners to handle objections. It's asking really good questions and again, being their consultant, being their coach.
So a really important thing to you guys is just truly understanding what the actual objection is. Not what the surface level objection is, but by peeling back the layers, figuring out exactly what it is, so then you can give them a better solution.
100%. Like I'm not in this sleazy sales business of sharp one-liners and overconfidence and bull rushing through people. And we will regularly tell people like, hey, based on what you've said, like if that's all what you're looking to do and that's all true, honestly, I'd recommend you more so look at this or look at this. Like I know we have a couple options here, but I probably wouldn't recommend any of these options. And that's just being truthful and like being a good consultant. And we very much do approach it like where they're coached. So when they say, oh, it's more than I was expecting. Okay. What the heck does that mean? Does that mean you don't see the value in paying a painting company 10 grand? Again, that's one thing we may need to discuss. And maybe you don't. Maybe you're not at the point in your life where you should be doing that. And that may be an option we conclude together as their paint consultant, right? Or we may decide, or we may come to conclude when they're like, that's more than I was expecting, that again, it's actually just a logistical thing. And they don't realize they don't need all the money right now. And we're not going to do it for 3 months. And they could easily plan and budget that over 3 months. Cool. We'll just take a deposit now. We'll get you on the schedule. That's just a logistical thing. Maybe they just need financing connections. Like, so there's other pieces. Exactly. But it's getting to the root of it and helping them solve the problem, which is I need to talk to my wife. That's a problem. I want to do this, but I need to talk to my wife. I want to do this, but so yeah, long story short.
Okay. Yeah, so it makes sense. Those are the common kind of issues you guys are facing. Do you guys do anything with that initial call going out or that confirmation call to like pre-qualify people to confirm if there's any other decision makers, kind of try to handle it before it does come up?
Yeah, not as hard as like people think. Like we don't go super hard and like pre-qualify like a lot of sales and marketing people want to preach. But we do qualify based on area, right? So service area, like when we set the appointment, we want to make sure they're in the right area. And you can kind of use that to be a sneaky way as far as like income without having to temp check them on that. We have a very specific list of zip codes we service. We're not going to serve the lower end zip codes that our data shows us we don't sell well in, or that our data shows us are very low income and then we normally don't sell well in, or maybe they're not safe parts of town we don't want to send our guys to. So we use that zip code list as this is our service area, and that's kind of a sneaky back end way for income. Project type, right? If somebody's like, "Hey, I want my driveway pressure washed," we're like, "Sorry, man, like we'll pressure wash your house to paint it, but like we're a painting company, like we won't do that," right? So
Mhm.
on project type, and then decision makers, right? We're trying to get both decision makers there as well, which doesn't always happen, but we certainly try and have a solid process to get both people there.
Gotcha. Okay. So with the decision makers, you are asking and kind of pushing for them to be there, not so much so you can close them on the spot, but also just so there's full transparency and the other decision maker can speak directly with the source as well. But if they can't make it, it's not the end of the world. You book them
We'll
with
still take the appointment. The
okay.
remodeling company I used to work at, we wouldn't take the appointment. We called a one legger. So our sales guy would get there. If both people weren't there, we would literally leave and reschedule the appointment. I've seen that be an issue for people. We've closed plenty of people. Like I said, sometimes it's just a logistical thing. Just needs to check with wife we're doing ceilings or not. So we'll still take the appointment. However, we know our likelihood of getting that objection, not closing it, does go up. So we do make a very strong effort to get both decision makers there.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So that gives me a really good understanding of the sales process that has worked for you guys. You have the appointment setter. They're not hard qualifying them, but they are asking some qualifying questions just to make sure you guys can even do the project. Booking them with a salesperson who will call to confirm, have a little back and forth to build more engagement and stay top of mind. And then they're on the Zoom call going over the project details. If it sounds good, they're sending a proposal, a payment link, and getting everything booked and squared away right then and there. If it requires a follow-up, they book a follow-up and ideally close on that call. Does
Yeah.
that kind of encompass everything?
Yeah. No, exactly.
Cool. Okay. So that's the amazing sales process. Very simplified. Like you said, it's nothing sexy, but it works.
Mhm.
Let's talk about Facebook ads because I know this is definitely your area of expertise. Like I said, you're with with Pathfinder Marketing. You guys are working with painting businesses and just getting them amazing results. So can you kind of run us through your process with Facebook ads, like lead forms versus messenger, what kind of like creatives you're using, like whatever you're able to share?
For a while, we ran a lot of messenger ads, like almost exclusively several years ago, and we would funnel it through ManyChat. We're always testing and trying new things. And at a certain point, we started just seeing a big shift in cost to quality ratio, if you will, in lead forms providing better. So we pretty much start every account on lead forms now. I'm a big fan of setting it up with no autofill in there. So making your own custom fields and not using the autofill name, phone number, email fields. 6 months, a year ago, you couldn't do that. Facebook would disapprove your form, reject your ad immediately. I don't
Mhm.
know if they've publicly said anything. I haven't seen anything, but now you can. Made dozens and dozens of them, and none of them got rejected. So that's been huge recently. The other big thing we've leaned into that I kind of discovered from then running our own painting business as well is a style of copy and creative that's like much more wholesome, right? Rather than being the marketer and attention, whatever homeowners, Cleveland homeowners, and all these emojis and kind of big, loud, as most marketers think to grab their attention, hook them in. We've written ads that are much more wholesome. We've had some really good performing ads where it's like a family photo and the first line of the copy is like, "Hey guys, my name's Eric and I love painting houses." Dot dot dot. Second line. Like I'm completely serious and like there's more to it obviously, but that's kind of been stuff we've been leaning into that's been working really really well.
Yeah. To your point, we have some clients where they have something that people want to support. So, for example, they're, trying to pay for someone's treatment, like in their family, or they're going to school,
Yeah.
pay for school. So anything that can show you're a real person, but also might even be something people want to support, you're essentially trying to use that to your advantage in the copy.
Yeah, exactly. Like those things that can kind of tug at the heartstrings. I've kind of I feel like I've kind of come to this conclusion since starting our painting business too. I think homeowners, when looking for like a home service company, they want they want to support the local guy, but they don't want to deal with all the bullshit that comes with that of like guy doesn't show up on time, doesn't text him back, doesn't communicate, whatever, right? But they'd rather support the local guy than the big corporate franchises. So it's like it's trying to find that balance of like local hometown hero feel It feels like just like a family, wholesome, honest company with like big company amenities, meaning like you're getting texted immediately. When you like, you're never lack of communication. If somebody's gonna be 5 minutes late to your house, they're telling you like that, those amenities without the corporate feel in their experience, and trying
Mhm.
to find that blend, not just from an advertising point of view, but from like a customer experience point of view. Just as I've met with more homeowners and been doing this now a little longer, it's like I've kind of come to that conclusion that they want that small town local company feel with the big company amenities still. And if you can do both, I think that's the golden zone.
Yeah, that's great because if you can on the front end attract people by saying, "Hey, I'm that local business that you want to support," but then on the back end, you're not dropping the ball and showing late to appointments, seeming very unprofessional. As long as you
Yeah.
still uphold that standard, then you're getting more people through the door, but then also closing them at a higher rate than your competition probably is.
Exactly. It's like, what's up, guys? I'm Eric. I'm the local guy. I run this painting business. Here's my family. Here's my dog. And then it's like, and our office person, Sarah, is on it. Always have a response in like 5 minutes. And our project manager is there. And when he was running 2 minutes behind, he texted you. He texted you when he was on his way. And like our painters were nice and polite. They parked in the street. They didn't park in the driveway. Like they asked if they could use the back. Like all this, those little like boom, boom, boom. And they're like, holy crap, right? It's just like, but you're still this local guy. You're not like this like big corporate, they're just like it's all this freaking professional stuff. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't know. It's a tough balance to find, but I think if you can find that, there's a lot of opportunity there.
For sure. And like you said, it's kind of tough to find, but it just comes down to testing. If you do a lot of testing, you'll find it. So diving a little deeper, I think that's kind of like an overarching theme in what you do, but diving into the deeper, like more specific actionable items, like let's talk about targeting. Like what do you guys do for targeting? Is it broad? Are you targeting by income or anything like that?
Yeah, testing it. A lot of times, some of our best performing ads are just open targeting, age, location, and a lot of it comes down to copy and creative. Sometimes interest based. If we got a good amount of data, we can do some lookalikes, and sometimes those do well. Sometimes those do worse though than open too. So it is really just a matter of kind of testing and seeing what does better. Like in local, this isn't ecom, right? There's not that many things to test. So we'll test some interest, we'll test some custom audiences, we'll test some big broad audiences, and what does best, and what's crushing now may in 3 months in your market change. That happens all the time too. So.
Yeah. I know I follow this and I hear a lot of people. I feel like I've heard you say this before. Do you follow the 10% rule where 10% of your budget's always going towards testing new stuff?
10% of like our advertising budget is?
Yeah, like of your budget.
Not necessarily. Just because like with our clients, like in my opinion, most of them don't have a big enough budget. Like what, I'm gonna take 10% of your $1,000 in ad spend. I'm gonna take $100. Like I just don't have enough chips on the table to see if that test is working. I need like 25 bucks a day for a week or two to be able to test something. Within our painting company, like this probably isn't the best answer, but like the truthful answer is like, I don't know, man. If I got an idea, we just test it. Maybe we overspend and burn some money, but it's like I'm just excited. I'm a marketing nerd at heart. It also serves our marketing company being able to. So I don't know, I got an unlimited testing budget within reason, as long as I don't bankrupt the company. But for our clients, I don't really focus on that. Again, I'm going to take the testings and discoveries I find like within our painting business and then pull those discoveries into like our clients. So that's kind of how we do that. If I had somebody with a really big budget where they had like 5 grand or more in ad spend a month, then I would implement something like that more. Yeah, where it's like, let me take a portion of this and just ping pong new ideas, throw stuff against the wall. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, cool. Well, so with that being said, I think that kind of wraps up my questions in regards to. Actually, I was also curious about this. Obviously, when running Facebook ads, like the ads manager, tracking the metrics that way is awesome, but obviously that doesn't tell the full picture. There's also the things to consider in the back end, like what campaigns are actually converting, what the cost per acquisition is. It's going to be different campaign to campaign. So tell me a bit about your tracking on the back end.
Yeah. Again, like not the sexiest answer, but a lot of it's manual because it works. And this isn't a $10 million company. There's just no need to overcomplicate it right now. In the same case with most of our clients' businesses, right? There's just no need to really overcomplicate it. But yeah, we're tracking all of that. Kind of the benchmarks and KPIs we follow in our business and all of our clients is ideally $50 or less in ad spend per lead. We want to set 50% of leads as appointments. So if I get 100 leads, I want 50 appointments. And then of my appointments, we want to close 30% or more of those. So 50% or higher set rate, 30% or higher close rate, $50 or less per lead. If that maths and your average ticket is that of a normal painting company, which is 4 to 6 grand ish, give or take a little bit. Interiors, exteriors, cabinets, depending on what you're doing. You should be able to get to a nice 10% cost of marketing metric, meaning for every $1 you put into advertising, you're taking $10 or more back out in revenue over the course of, 6, 8, 10 months, whatever, a year. So those are like my benchmarks and stuff I'm looking for and things we're looking at regularly on a month-to-month basis. But I don't have any like crazy automated tracking setup in the background. It's very much just like some simple spreadsheets that take 5 minutes to update. So
Cool. So a lot of people, they'll look at the ads manager, see the cost per lead, and that's kind of extent of their tracking. But what
yeah,
you guys are doing is almost reverse engineering it, where your cost per lead is $50. You need to be at $100 cost per appointment and then $300 cost per acquisition, essentially.
yeah, more or less. Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. So that definitely answers the question though. And yeah, I wasn't looking for some big sexy automation.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say there's no Hyros involved here. Like it's not that complicated of a business.
And it's also just not that complicated of something to track. Anyone can track it instantly if they just, did the calculations, figured out for every lead, how many are becoming appointments, for every appointment, how many are becoming customers, and then your cost per acquisition.
Literally, like we have a tracking sheet on the marketing side of how many leads we're getting, how much spend. Our appointment setter has a tracking sheet with some other things too, but like the big things there are how many new leads came in, how many appointments did we set, right? How many of those appointments closed, et cetera. Our closer has a tracking sheet of how many new appointments are on his calendar today, how many closed in follow up. And again, there's other things too, like what deal advanced, you know, what was the no show rate. Like, so there's other things that are helpful as well, but like those key KPIs, just a few simple Google Sheets, that our team updates. Again, takes them 5 minutes at the end of the day to get updated.
Cool. And so an interesting thing you said too is like it's done manually, but it's not done by you. You are the business owner, you're not doing
Yeah.
any of it. So it's not automated, but in a way it kind of is because there's other people that are tracking it. They're tracking their stats, are on top of it. So you can just look at a report and see the KPIs.
And
So
that was intentional though. Like, so because of the marketing side, I have the skill sets to go build the dashboards and automate it all and zap it all through. But I wanted our sales team tracking a lot of that manually. It's in front of them every day. They know their numbers, right? They're looking at it, they're going, what if I make that one on closes two? What's that put my percentage at for the month? It's in front of them every day. It's not like they just forgot to check the dashboard for a week because it's like they need to update it when they fill out their end of day report. They know exactly where they're at. Out of
yeah,
sight, out of mind, insight in mind.
it gives them ownership of their numbers and they always know their numbers.
Exactly.
Cool. But so that leads me into people now, because I think that's probably the part that you've been dealing with the most bottlenecks and issues, but probably learning the most in regards to as well is hiring and
Yeah.
team members and things of that nature. So can you tell me a bit about not so much the sales marketing side, like I think that we have a good understanding of how to incentivize people and stuff like that, but in terms of your technicians, the people that are going out and do their jobs, actual painters, how do you incentivize them to do an amazing job?
Yeah, dude. So we actually have, I think, the freaking coolest bonus structure in the world, right? This is something I was thinking about coming over from the marketing side is like, I think everybody should have some level of performance-based pay, right? So you can see like who's performing better, right? They have a reason. They're not just clocking hours, but they have some sort of performance-based pay. That's normal in the marketing world for media buyers and salespeople and project managers and all that. So I knew when we weren't going to subcontract and we were going to have W-2 painters that I wanted some level of performance pay and bonus structure. And we got our ass kicked with it for like 5 months straight. And we created like 6 different versions of it. It was brutal. And the one we have now is like pretty freaking rock solid. It's a little complex. I'll do my best to explain it, especially like without visuals and stuff. But more or less, every project before we ever kick off the project, the crew that's assigned to it has a certain amount of budgeted hours, right? So maybe a project has 90 budgeted hours, meaning exactly what it sounds like. This project has 90 man hours budgeted to be completed. If our painters finish it in under 90 budgeted hours, the extra hours, let's say they 2 people worked a 40-hour week, they finished it in 80 and it was budgeted for 90. Those extra 10 hours go back to the team that was painting it as a bonus. Okay. That's like the core piece of it. Now you start getting into other nuances though, unfortunately, right? Which is, well, you can't just split that bonus evenly. What if the one guy was sick the one day? So this guy worked 60 hours on the job and that person worked 40 hours on the job. They shouldn't get the same bonus, right? You're 100% right. So we weight it based on the hours they work. If there's $100 in extra bonus dollars at the end of it, in terms of what it was budgeted for, we divide that evenly into based on how many hours they worked on the job. There's also, so like I said, it's kind of complex, but there's also a piece of it because then the issue becomes, well, dude, if you're just incentivizing them to go fast, they're just gonna blow through it, and you're gonna have constant callbacks and whatever. They're not gonna do a good job. So then we call yellow slips. This is something I took from a guy, Mike Andes, right? Who's big on the performance pay as well, lawn care guy. So we have something we call yellow slips, which is basically like, hey, if there's a callback on something, the team that was responsible for that callback goes and takes care of it. They go take care of the yellow slip. Then however many hours they spend there, we take their hours times their hourly rate, and that comes out of their next week's bonuses. So if they make 20 an hour and they go spend 2 hours fixing a yellow slip, touching something up that they missed, $40 is going to come out of their next bonus. Okay. So it creates accountability. Nobody wants to go back for it. You're going to spend more time fixing the yellow slip because you got to clean out your brushes again. You got to drive over there, right? Like you're going to lose more doing that. So that's how we have the accountability piece of it. The other piece of it then is like we have people at different skill sets and wages, right? So we don't weight the bonuses based on seniority level, which a lot of people would do. But I think that creates a tough dynamic on the team where the apprentice isn't as motivated because they're like, dude, like the job site manager, the crew lead's getting 60% of the bonus. Why should I freaking care anyways? Right. So the bonuses are completely equal, right? Like per hour. It's only weighted on hours worked. But like if apprentice worked 40 hours on the job and crew lead worked 40 hours on the job, they're getting the same bonus at the end. But the differences are in their hourly rate. So we have apprentices at 18 an hour, painters at 20, and then job site managers at 25 an hour, which are very competitive and good wages for Cleveland, Ohio, at least. And then the other key of this is then we're good enough at marketing and sales that we can sell these for high enough projects. And we have reverse engineered like the production rates of like how long should it take to paint a standard bedroom, et cetera. That like our team is and should be bonusing on like 80 to 90% of projects. It's not always going to be a crazy, $8 an hour extra bonus, but I'd say our team is averaging like an extra $1 to $4 an hour in bonus dollars, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit complex, but it
Yeah.
sounds like that's exactly what you need to push people to want to work harder, work better, and just, get the project done.
Comp plans are designed to incentivize the actions you want to see, right? So I'm incentivizing them to be efficient and do quality work because if they go faster, they're more efficient. If they're not dilly-dallying and taking a 45-minute lunch break, but they're efficient, right? They're working hard, they're gonna get done faster, they're gonna bonus, but they're not gonna work so fast that they're sloppy because then there's gonna be the yellow slip, right? Like we're just in, and they still have motivation to move up the ranks and become a job site manager because then their base hourly is higher. It's like it is complex, but it's designed to incentivize the actions you want to see, which is ultimately efficiency, quality work, upward growth, all of that.
And so, as the employee, obviously, incentive is to make more money in a shorter duration of time. But as the business owner, what is your incentive if you're still paying the same labor costs?
Dude, I love this question. Yes. It feels silly. And for a while, actually, I had that extra bonus money, only 75% of it was going to go to them. So the business also had some incentive because otherwise I was like, I don't give a shit, right? Who cares? But here's the extra incentive it does for me as the business owner. One, retention of employees because they're making more money. So they want to stay with the company, they enjoy it. And then two, cool, I have this amount of budgeted hours. I'm okay paying this amount in budgeted hours no matter what, whether they take the whole budgeted hours or whether they do it in half and the rest gets paid as bonuses. I have budgeted this much. I can make my margins and run the business I want to run with this much. Cool. So already accounted for. Now, if it's done faster, though, what do we get to do? So if a project that was supposed to finish on Friday finishes on Wednesday, we have 2 extra days. So we can get another project done and more revenue into the business. So it allows us to do more in the same amount of calendar days. And that's where the business benefits from it, aside from just retention of the employees, happy employees, all of that as well.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
was thinking a lot of business owners would take this and say, well, hey, why don't I just give them like 50% so I can still make more money and that's my incentive. But what you explain makes a lot of sense. It keeps your employees happier. You're still, budgeting the same exact money. Your situation does not change at all, whether it's going towards them for the bonus or towards them as the hourly. But now you can fit in just more work in the same calendar space as you would before.
Yeah, they're excited knowing they're going to get 100% of that, right? Because otherwise, again, if think about it, if they're like, it just starts getting different, right? If they're like, I can push and finish this 2 hours extra ahead of time, and I'm going to get effectively 2 more hours of my pay for free. But if you're going to take 50% of that, they're like, dude, I'll just take my sweet old time and make 2 hours worth of money with the extra 2 hours is budgeted for 20, okay, let's say $20, right? I can take my sweet old time, not work super hard, finish it in the 2 hours it's budgeted for and make my 40 bucks on my hourly rate. Or I can bust my ass, finish it in an hour to then make less because 50%, like it screws it and it's not aligned. So that's where I think that really, really helps. I had another thought on that, but I forgot it. But yeah, like that's part of it. Big part of it.
Cool. Well, I think that's all we got time for today. So I just want to say, really appreciate you hopping on. It was
Yeah,
super
dude.
valuable. And hopefully we can connect in like a year once you have even more experience with the painting business.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, your processes, your bonus structure will be even that much better. But just for anyone that's watching today, wants to learn a bit more about you, what you do, maybe they have a painting business, they want to be able to, you have a lot of content online that's super valuable too. So maybe they want to check you out. Where could they find you?
So depending on when you're watching this, you're watching it right when it comes out at Eric Fos on everything, just EricFozz. However, if you don't see Eric Fos, we're going to be rebranding everything actually to Eric the Painter. So if you just search Eric the Painter, you'll find our podcast, our YouTube, our Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, hit me up wherever.
Cool. Well, whatever it is when I release this, I'll drop it in the comments for people to check out. But yeah, like I said, thank you for hopping on today.
Yeah, this was fun, man.